Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to talk about, I guess, give an INFJ's perspective on an INFP. The INFP is about 1% of the population, so they're very, very low percentage of the population. INFPs are very laid back people. They create a lot of room for other people to be themselves, to express themselves. They're very good listeners, and they're very non-judgmental. They're quite comfortable with people expressing themselves, expressing their ideas and their beliefs. They may not necessarily agree with them, but they're very comfortable with people having their own ideas and beliefs. Where people might get stuck is when people try to change an INFP's value system or challenge their value system. That's when there can be problems. However, because of the INFP's reluctance for conflict, you might not even know that they're resisting the challenge. They might just let it sort of go through to the keeper, just kind of ignore it really, not feel that they need to justify it or debate it. And my sense with an INFP is if the challenge of their value system is pushed too far, there might actually be a violation of the friendship or the relationship, and you might not necessarily see them making an adjustment of the friendship, whether it's sort of spend less time with you or whatever it is. They might just distance themselves a little bit because of that violation, but generally I don't think you would know that you have. However, I think where you do see an INFP being quite passionate is, it's kind of a contradiction, but maybe outside of a relationship, maybe in a work setting, or maybe just in some sort of circumstances, certain values when they're pushed in an INFP could cause them to become quite reactful, cause them to be to react. They may, you might just see them get upset, or verbally go on a bit of a, not a tirade, but just, they'll be defending their value system if they feel that it's being threatened in some way. And so in some respects, you really know when you're touching on a value system in an INFP, because they'll become quite expressive at times, or passionate. That usual sort of reservedness sort of disappears, and they can become quite animated at times. So INFPs are very good listeners, like I've just said earlier. They create a tremendous amount of space for people to be themselves, and that can be very comforting, reassuring, create quite a warm atmosphere, and it comes very naturally to them. It's not like they try to do this, so it can be experienced as very natural. And so often a lot of people find themselves talking a lot with an INFP, because the INFP just creates an atmosphere of safety, almost even an atmosphere of trust, even if you don't really know them very well. There can be that sort of atmosphere where you can share and talk openly. Basically, an INFP's life pursuit is to find unity within their whole self. Their mind, their emotions, their body, their intellect. they're looking for it all to sort of be united. And I think that can cause an INFP to be quite willing to explore life in quite diverse ways, which could see them being marginalised in certain circles because they're willing to explore beliefs, explore ideas in ways where the rest of the group might feel threatened by it. And as an INFJ, my experience with INFPs, especially a friend of mine, as being introverted intuitive, I can pick up in them that it's strange, it's hard to sort of articulate, but it's while they can be very calm and warm and laid back and create a warm atmosphere and all of that, their inner world can be very different to that. It's like you can sense that there isn't unity in a way. Like you can see them they're on the journey of create unity, and everything kind of feels like it would almost feel from an INFJ point of view that everything's kind of not fitting together yet. And I think for an INFJ that can be quite unsettling. I think INFJs, we're willing to, intuitively we sort of search ideas and thoughts and beliefs, and we can see them all connecting up together, and we get a lot of enjoyment out of doing that. But I think when we do that, it's a lot more solid. The ideas or the connections are a lot more solid than perhaps an INFPs are. That they seem to be able to handle more uncertainty or greyness in the connections and the thoughts and the ideas, and as part of their way of trying to seek unity. I think they can sit in more tension in that than I think an INFJ can. So it's a bit of for an INFJ's perspective, there's almost a paradox there between that calm, reassuring, warm atmosphere that they present, yet their inner world can be very different to that. But they seem to live with that relatively comfortably. I'm not sure many other personality types might pick up on that contradiction. It's not a contradiction, but it appears to be, but it's not, because an INFP can be on that quest for a total unity within their whole self, and while they're in that transitional space, if you like, they can be completely and fully present with you. It's like an INFJ can sort of pick up a mask or pick up a front, but often INFPs are fairly fully present. That there can be, there's often not a lot of blockages within a connection, like within a relationship, at least not from their point of view. So I think that's why INFPs and INFJs might be able to form close friendships or even relationships, because they're both in a way after the same thing. They're after deep connection, especially in the era, I think, of romantic relationships. They're after a real deep connection, and they will pursue that. Especially, I think both INFJs and INFPs, but INFPs can pursue that connection to sort of their own detriment in a way if it's not achievable within the relationship. But if they're feeling sort of tied to that relationship, they can seek it and get quite hurt in the process if the other person's not willing or able to connect with them on that level. the other aspect of the relationship side of an INFP is that they can see the potential in other people, and they can spend a lot of time with someone, not necessarily pushing them in any way, but just believing in them, and they can often sort of see a path for another person, a path out of where they're at and into a greater realm of freedom or a breakthrough. INFPs, I think, have an ability to see that, and they're incredibly patient. They're willing to walk with someone for a long period of time, if it sort of ties in with the INFP's belief system or value system. The word cause comes up a lot when talking about INFPs. If they have a cause, then they would be willing to go to the ends of the earth to achieve that cause and make it have it be achieved. I think one of the benefits of having a friendship or a relationship with an INFP is that they're very good listeners. So for a person that is a verbal processor, an INFP is fantastic to be able to vent, share your feelings, talk out an issue. For a lot of verbal processors, they don't need many interruptions or questions. In a way, the verbal processor comes to the answers themselves if they've given enough room to be able to just talk out the issue, get the emotion out of the issue and talk about it, go off on the various tangents that the issue might have, and often the verbal processor will come to their own conclusion or answers to their dilemma. So INFPs are great for that, to be able to verbal process, because they create so much space. And they're not in a hurry to change you. And so, however, the flip side of that is if you're looking for feedback, if you're looking for a perspective on it, on your issue, you're looking for some ideas or thoughts, maybe INFPs generally aren't, don't expect that too much for an INFP. Their strength is they create a great room for you to be yourself and to share, but it's not that they're reluctant. They might be reluctant to give their opinion, even if you ask them for their opinion, they're not really interested to give it. And I think part of that might be just my own sense, is that they don't want to interfere with another person's value system. The other part of it is INFPs love to listen. They're great listeners. It's not like it's a chore. It's like, or they go, okay, now I'm in a listening space, I need to be conscious to listen. They just naturally do it, and that's a real quality, I think, of an INFP. So one way to get to know an INFP is to find out what their values are, what are their beliefs, what's important to them, what's their cause that they're currently fighting for. That's a great way to find out what makes them tick. A great way to, rather than maybe being so direct about it, what are your beliefs and values, watch for when they're passionate. Especially if they use body gestures to describe what they're talking about. That's a good sign that they're tapping into their beliefs, because I think generally speaking INFPs aren't always or naturally sort of physically animated, but if they are, then it's possible that you're becoming aware of something that's really, really important to them. Another thing is if an INFP opens up and does talk about maybe some of their real current struggles or some of the things that they're battling with or searching on. They might have a belief that they're challenging, and they're wondering, is this what I really believe? It doesn't seem to fit. I'm going to look into this. If I think that's a real sacred space in an INFP is when they're challenging their own belief system, and if they're opening up and sharing that journey with you, then it's likely that either they think I think maybe one of two things. There's probably more, but one thing is that they feel as though sharing it with you will be in some way beneficial to you in regards to your journey. But the other thing is that it might signify that you are a significant person in their life. There's someone that you're someone that they can trust. They value you, they value the friendship, and so be mindful if you find yourself in that space with an INFP that they are putting trust in you, they're demonstrating trust. So it's important if you're in that space to not judge or to criticize or to challenge or try and change their belief or tell them they're not, that's a silly belief, or I wouldn't go down that path or whatever. You're just going to get nowhere with that. The greatest thing that you can give the INFP is room for them to share where they're at. You'll probably find that they won't spend too much time doing that. I don't think they use words. What a verbal processor might spend half an hour talking about something, but sort of an equivalent issue for an INFP, they might only spend a minute or two just sort of sharing it. They're sharing aspects of it. They're not big on sort of talking about things. One of the things you might become aware of, or you might be worth pointing out, is an INFP's use of their auxiliary function, the extroverted intuition. With that, they scan the external world and pick up body language, things that are happening outside, and intuitively process that and to make an evaluation. So if you're talking with an INFP, you might notice them noticing your body language. If you sort of sit there and you cross your arms like that, they're going to pick that up in an external way. Whereas an INFJ will intuitively pick up the externals in the sense of that it's not conscious as much. The INFJ sort of, if an INFP and an INFJ is both watching the same thing, the INFJ will kind of be watching everything, and a whole lot of information will be coming in sort of almost unconsciously. They're not consciously picking up things. There might be a bit of noticing, but mainly it's coming through against their conscious awareness, and it's being intuitively processed, and then there's a sense of what they're noticing, but it comes from inside, and whereas an INFP will be noticing what's going on. They'll be consciously being aware of what they're seeing and noticing and picking up, and responding to that in some way. So there are some of my thoughts on INFPs and my experience of INFPs as an INFJ. So it'd be interesting to get your your comments, whether you identify with some of the things that I've said, or as an INFP you don't agree with some things that I've shared. I'll be interested to just get your comments and feedback about your experience as an INFP, or even if you're an INFJ, your experience of INFPs.